There are days that I'm exceptionally proud to live in this community, and certainly experiencing today with a couple of hundred people who care about what's going on in this community has made it a really good day. So I would start by saying thanks for being here. Your involvement and engagement, and I know you're here because you're passionate about this community, and my challenge really is going to be, is there a way we can take and really think bigger and multiply our actions? So that's really where I'm going. This is also the TEDx caboose of the day, which is given to, the obligatory position to the corporate muckety and community organizers. So I'm happy to take that position. Businesses don't wake up every morning thinking about doing good. Businesses wake up thinking about growing. They think about what can we do to go after things and make it bigger. And what I'd like to share is a few thoughts that I've had of living in the business world, but also seeing things that have really worked in this community and tried to identify. So we're all sitting here going, we're either engaged in something now, or we have an idea, or we saw something today, or we're part of a big machine today. What can we do to grow it and make it even better? In the business world, one of the gurus is Warren Buffett. And one of his themes is durable competitive advantage. If a company can create a durable competitive advantage, you've got something that nobody else has. It can be a brand, it can be a manufacturing capability, it can be any kind of advantage of creating things that someone else can't do. Locally, one of our local business icons, Fred Bauer, has another saying, and he likes to say, let's shoot at elephants. Which he's not talking about blasting pachyderms. He's talking about how do we solve a problem that a lot of people, tens of thousands, millions of people will pay money for. And what I've tried to do is reflect on saying, are there ideas between what we've learned there and also what we've learned in this community about things that have really worked to take each of us doing good individually to grow to being really good together and working together in a model that leverages some of these ideas. So I've identified 5 things that for me over the years have really highlighted difference makers. And you're going to hear some common themes from what you've heard throughout the day. The first one is one you've heard a bit about. And you have to start and say, if you're going into something or before you go into something, is this something that really charges me? Being an employer for 30 plus years, it's hard enough to keep people motivated when you're paying them. And when you're in the area of doing good and you're not getting paid for it, but you're trying to make a difference for kids or for seniors or for families in need, it's got to be something that charges you. And you've heard that theme today. And one of the things, a tool that I used or learned from a friend of mine is called a lifeline. And it's a very easy way, and I would challenge you to do the same thing. And it's basically a graph where the vertical axis is on the bottom low points in your life, and at the top high points in your life. And as you go to the right, it's birth to today. So it's basically a timeline. And you spend a couple minutes and go, what were those significant events in my life that really made a difference or defined me? And I would challenge you to do that. And as an example, I have one, I did mine. And for some of you that know me, it may not be a surprise. For some of you that know me, it may be a surprise. So again, starting on the left is birth. And you can see the first 2 dots on my chart are very low on not happy experiences. As long as I can remember, I was the smallest kid in my class. And that kind of formed who I was. The other thing that happened is from K-12, I went to 6 different school districts. Now, when you're the smallest in the class and you go to a lot of different schools, you learn something really quick, especially if you have a little bit of a quick wit. And I'm not a quick twitch guy, so I couldn't outrun anybody. I got beat up a lot, and mostly by girls. Uh, and I couldn't outrun anybody either. And for me, it was a forming thing to say, I'm not going to engage a lot because I get beat up if I say something. And I'm going to be somewhere else soon anyway, so no big deal. The next point is really the first job I had, which was in this community, and it was a pretty small company, 90 or 100 people when I joined back in 1973. And for me, that was the first time where I really felt like I was part of something. And for me, it was a wonderful way of kind of saying, boy, I feel wanted here. I can see where I can fit. And it was entrepreneurial, and it hit buttons that I didn't know that I had. I met Deb, my high school sweetheart here, and married her, and that's been one of the best things in my life. We had 2 children, Jenny and Ryan, and I'm going to get through all of this. And it was great, and they went to the same school system for their whole time here. The next one is unusual. Normally, people put promotions high on the list. Oh, promotion, that's a beautiful thing. Mine wasn't so good. I took a promotion because I thought it was what I needed to do. And it took me out of this community. It took me into places that we did a lot of good work, but in the end of the day, I wasn't here. At the same time, Ryan, our second son, was graduating from high school. And he had a problem with depression, but he was a really, really smart kid. And he knew how to self-medicate. It wasn't all legal. Matter of fact, very little of it was legal. He ended up going very quickly into serious substance abuse, and for the next 6 years, went through probably 3 or 4 different rehab programs. And for a guy that's a fixer and has done that, to not be able to fix it's a really, really hard thing. And at age 25, he was engaged to be married. He had kind of kicked it, and he was 3 months away from getting married and had been clean. And I talked to him on the phone one evening, and he was in a town in Ohio on work. And I could tell he was a little upset. And we got the call the next day that he had gone out and went back to some of the hard stuff that he used to take in the same amount that he used to take. And as you may know, the body builds up a tolerance. So what took him to get to where he needed to be 3 years before took his life at age 25. So it's one of those points that you really say, so what am I going to do with this? And the one other point, which I didn't put on here, is the way this community reacted to that, for Deb and I, was very special. And that was something that, for us, drove what's going on. MME, that's Mason, Molly, and Emma. Jenny's 3 kids, our 3 grandchildren, who all live here in this community. So that's my lifeline. I'm kind of wired goofy, but I want to be engaged in stuff. And kids make a difference, and people that have issues drive how I think. Number 1 is personal passion. Number 2 is crossroads. We often think about crossroads as the corner of 8th and Central. Do I turn left here? Do I turn right here? Oh, wait, I can't turn. Can I turn? Is that one way? Is that, I'm not. And today, crossroads, it really doesn't matter anyway, because the Garmin, if you turn it, recalculates and going again. I can remember sitting in Israel with a rabbi who some of you know, Ray Vanderlaan, and he talked about crossroads. And crossroads in the Middle East take on a whole different meaning. This is where civilizations come together. This is where things happen that drive, a wrong turn it could be the end of your clan or your country. Crossroads, when it comes to this community, certainly isn't, in all cases, life and death. But it is cases to say, is this the right time to do something, to do good? Is this the right direction today? It's like a business thing. There are great ideas that the time isn't right. There are great good things, the time isn't right. And I think there are great examples in this community. And the Commons of Evergreen is one of them. There was one lady who had an idea that this community needed a place for seniors. She was not a woman of means. She didn't grow up in this town. She had a passion to say, we need this, and got a person and a family and a community. And today we have one of the finest senior centers in the country. Hospice of Holland, same thing, one woman with a vision. End of life, we need a place for people to finish their life with their family. Great example. And we have others, the Boys and Girls Club, the Rescue Mission. These were things that the time was right, the crossroads for good things to happen. Number 3, data. Now this is in direct opposition to the passion side, but I think it's really, really important because passion isn't sustainable. You have to have data. And if you're going to grow a cause, if you're going to grow a good, data is something that can really help you. And there's a real great story in this community that some of you are aware of and I'd love to share. And it's about kids going into kindergarten. And you go, who wouldn't be in favor of having kids be ready to go into kindergarten? Raise your hand. Well, you're heathen. Everybody. It's like Gerber babies, this is good. But let me show you some data, because nobody is going to say, well, let's really build something. What if I told you that in 2009, for the first time, the first community in the United States that has every public, every private, every charter school with incoming kindergartners are being measured? And in 2009, the data showed that 43% of those children going into kindergarten in this community, over 2,000 children, 43% were deemed ready for school. The experts tell us that the chances of those kids graduating from high school because of coming in being that far behind are very, very minimal. 57% not ready in our backyard. Every school, a group came together based on that data and said, that ain't good enough. That's not good enough. The time is right, the data is there for us to make a difference, and you can see what's happened with the impact. 57, 55, 62, 62, our goal is 75 by 2015. I'm pretty confident we're going to be there. But data is really the thing that's driving that organization. Number 4, think like an owner. How do we use entrepreneurial approaches to do good in areas that we may not always do it? And examples of this to me are really leveraging those existing resources. It's like starting a charity, a 503c, and building a building that gets used once a week or twice a week because we can have this space. How do we use existing organizations? How do we link organizations? We don't always have to start something new, because organizations that build as nonprofits at some point get too big and they're worried about existing. And to think like an owner, we can do better. The final one is what I call the special sauce. And I'm going to end with a test. And I want all of you to participate. I'm going to show you 3 pictures. And when I point out the one, I want you to say as loud as you can where it is, what it is. Top one. Bottom one. Middle one. Now, I think that's Zeke Vandervan here in row 3. What I heard was Hamilton, Borculo, and that big bridge that goes to the north side. This is the hard architecture that defines a community. We look at the top one and go, New York City. If we went into New York City blind and talked to the people and went in that community, I wonder what the soft architecture would be. We recognize the hard architecture. We recognize the buildings, the facades. But what's the soft? Is there difference between those 3 places? We have our own hard architecture in this community. Sites that we're all used to seeing. We also have our own soft architecture here. And my question for you at the end of this day is, what do you think our soft architecture is? What do you think people, when they walk into this community, feel? Do we care about kids? Do we care about seniors? Do we care about education? How do we deal with families that have needs? My final question is, how do you feel about that? And more than that, what can we do to impact the soft architecture of this community? Thank you very much.